You don't have to stay poor. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to live the same life over and over just because it's the one you started with. You were not born to struggle forever. You were born with the ability to choose, to act, to rise, and to change your story. But most people never do because they believe that where they started is where they're meant to stay, and that lie has killed more dreams than failure ever could. Because the truth is, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to hand you the life you deserve. You've got to get up and go build it with your own hands, your own faith, your own decisions every single day, because change doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. Some people keep waiting for the perfect time, the perfect idea, the perfect opportunity, but that perfect moment doesn't exist. The only perfect time is right now, because right now is the only time you have control over, and the longer you wait, the harder it gets. The longer you stay in that comfort zone, the smaller your belief becomes, and soon you'll start convincing yourself that this is all life has for you. But deep down, you know that's not true. Deep down, you know you were meant for more. You feel that pull every morning, that whisper that tells you this can't be it. There's something greater out there for you, but you have to move to find it. You have to step into uncertainty, because staying still never brings success. You don't have to stay poor in money, but more than that, you don't have to stay poor in mindset, poor in confidence, poor in belief, poor in effort, because real poverty isn't always about your bank account. It's about your habits, your thinking, your willingness to grow, your discipline to change, because a broke mindset will keep you poor even when opportunity knocks at your door. If you keep saying, I can't, I won't, I don't have enough, life will keep proving you right, because your life will always follow the direction of your words, your energy, your effort, and your decisions. That's the law of growth. What you plant, you harvest. So if you plant doubt, you'll harvest defeat. If you plant action, you'll harvest success. You can't keep blaming your past for your present, because your past is a classroom, not a prison. You were supposed to learn from it, not live in it. You were supposed to take the lessons and build a new life with them, not repeat the same patterns again and again. But too many people get comfortable being victims of their story, and they never realize that the same energy they spend complaining could be used creating, that the same time they spend wishing could be used working, and that the same pain they keep replaying could be used as fuel to build something greater, because pain is not there to punish you, it's there to push you. It's there to teach you what needs to change. It's there to wake you up to your potential. The problem isn't that you're not capable, it's that you've been conditioned to settle. You've been told that success is only for the chosen few. But that's a lie. Success is for the ones who choose to chase it, not the ones who wait for it. Success is for the ones who wake up early, who stay late, who fail but keep going, who fall but get up again, who refuse to accept average when greatness is possible. And every single one of those people started where you are now. They were scared, uncertain, broke, doubting, but they started anyway because they knew that staying the same was more painful than changing. And that's the turning point when you realize that doing nothing is actually the most dangerous thing you can do. You don't have to stay poor in opportunity, because opportunity doesn't just happen. It's created through effort, through preparation, through showing up again and again, even when no one's clapping, even when no one's watching, because the world only notices you after you've already done the work. So you can't wait for people to see your potential before you act on it. You have to see it first. You have to believe in your gift, even when nobody else does, because belief is the first currency of success. It's what gives you the courage to start. It's what keeps you alive when everything else is falling apart. It's what separates dreamers from doers. Every successful person once stood at the bottom, staring up, wondering if it would ever work. And the only difference between them and those who stayed behind is action, because action is the only proof of belief. Words mean nothing without motion, dreams mean nothing without effort, and faith means nothing without works. You can talk about success all day, but until you move, nothing moves. Until you act, nothing changes. You can read every book, watch every video, listen to every sermon, but if you don't take action, it's just inspiration that dies after the moment. But when you act, you give life to your dreams, you turn ideas into reality, you turn potential into progress. You don't have to stay poor in faith either, because every day you wake up with breath in your body is proof that you've got another chance, proof that your story isn't over yet, proof that you can still rise, still rebuild, still restart, no matter how many times you've failed, no matter how many doors have closed, no matter how much time you think you've lost, because what matters isn't where you are, it's what you do from here. Your life can change in a single decision, one shift in mindset, one step in the right direction, one bold moment of courage. That's all it takes to start rewriting your story. You have to stop saying someday and start saying today. Stop saying I wish and start saying I will, because the world doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to work. It responds to persistence. It responds to faith that moves, not faith that waits. And the longer you wait to start, the more you'll regret not starting sooner, because time will pass whether you act or not. And every day you delay is a day you'll never get back. So why not make it count? Why not start where you are with what you have and do what you can? Because it's not the size of your resources that determine your success, it's the size of your resolve. Every person you admire once faced the same fear, the same doubt, the same lack, but they didn't let it stop them. They used it as a reason to fight harder, to learn more, to push further. And that's what you need to do, because staying poor in any area of your life is a choice once you become aware of your power, once you realize that your habits are shaping your tomorrow, that your words are shaping your world, that your decisions are shaping your destiny. And once you know that truth, you can't unknow it. You can't pretend you're powerless anymore, because the moment you accept responsibility for your life, you take back control, and that's the beginning of everything. You don't have to stay poor in vision either, because what you see for yourself is what you start building. If you see yourself as stuck, you'll stay stuck. If you see yourself as capable, you'll start moving like it. Your vision is the map for your mission, and if your vision is small, your life will stay small. So start seeing bigger, dreaming bigger, expecting more, because the size of your dream determines the size of your drive. And if you only dream about survival, you'll never reach success. You have to see yourself thriving. You have to visualize yourself winning. You have to imagine your life beyond where you are right now, and then move like it's already yours. The truth is, most people stay poor because they quit too soon. They give up at the first failure. They stop when it gets hard. But every success story is built on the foundation of struggle. Every winner was once a beginner who refused to give up, and every champion carries scars from battles they didn't think they could survive, but they did, and so can you, because resilience is built through pain, patience, and persistence. And if you can survive your worst days, you can handle the journey to your best ones, because growth isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to stretch you, challenge you, break you open, so something stronger can grow. Don't let your circumstances convince you that you're done. Don't let your past convince you that you're finished. Don't let your environment convince you that you can't change, because some of the most powerful success stories came from people who had nothing but a dream and a decision, people who had no support, no money, no guarantee, but they had faith, they had hunger, they had fight, and that's all you need, because hunger will take you further than talent. fight will take you further than luck, and faith will take you further than fear. You just have to stop making excuses and start making effort. Your breakthrough is waiting on the other side of your comfort zone, and the longer you stay where it's safe, the longer you delay your blessings, because comfort feels good now, but costs you later, while growth hurts now, but pays forever. And that's the trade most people refuse to make. They'd rather stay in the familiar pain of poverty than face the unknown pain of progress. But you're not most people. You've got potential that's bigger than your excuses. You've got ideas that could change your future. You've got strength that you haven't even discovered yet. And the only way to find it is by moving, by acting, by refusing to stay where you are. You don't need permission to rise. You don't need validation to grow. You don't need someone to tell you you're ready, because readiness isn't a feeling. It's a choice. It's a decision to move forward even when you're scared, even when you're not sure how it'll work out, because action creates clarity and motion creates momentum. And once you start, the path reveals itself. But you'll never see the full staircase until you take the first step. So stop standing at the bottom waiting for a sign. You are the sign. Your desire to change is the sign. Your frustration with where you are is the sign. And your decision to move is the miracle that starts it all. You don't have to stay poor in effort, because effort is the one thing no one can take from you. It's the one thing you control completely. You may not control where you started, but you control how hard you fight from here. You control how much you give, how much you learn, how much you grow. And that's where your power lies, not in your circumstances, but in your consistency, because life rewards persistence, not potential. The world doesn't pay for what you could do. It pays for what you've done, and what you do consistently determines what you become eventually. So stop wishing for easy and start wishing for strength, because the stronger you become, the easier life feels. You don't have to stay poor in courage, because courage isn't about not being scared. It's about moving despite being scared. It's about acting while your knees are shaking. It's about saying, I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. It's about believing that fear doesn't mean stop. It means go. Go anyway. Go even if no one claps. Go even if no one believes in you, because every person who's ever changed their life started scared. And the moment you act in faith instead of fear, you step into a new level of life, because courage creates opportunities that comfort never will. And you'll realize that fear was never the enemy and action was. You don't have to stay poor in habits, because your habits are either your ladder or your cage. Every little thing you do daily builds your future silently, and most people never realize that their habits are slowly robbing them of the life they could have had. That scrolling every night is stealing hours from their purpose. That laziness is robbing them of opportunities they prayed for. That procrastination is killing dreams before they're even born. And the truth is, success isn't about doing one big thing right. It's about doing small right things every day. It's about showing up even when you don't see results. It's about consistency in the dark so you can shine in the light, because repetition creates mastery, and mastery creates freedom. If you want to stop living poor, start auditing your daily life. What are you feeding your mind? Who are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you reading? Because your input determines your outcome. And if all you feed yourself is doubt, fear, gossip, and comparison, don't expect peace, success, and progress. You can't plant negativity and expect a positive harvest. You can't water laziness and expect greatness to grow. Your results are just your habits in physical form. So change the pattern, and your life will change automatically. You don't have to stay poor in belief, because belief is your engine. Belief is what turns effort into power. It's what keeps you moving when results are delayed. It's what reminds you that what you see isn't all there is. because life is spiritual before it's physical. Everything you want starts as a belief before it becomes visible. So if your belief is small, your results will be small. But when your belief grows, your whole life expands, because belief changes the way you act, the way you speak, the way you see yourself. And until you believe you're worthy of more, you'll keep settling for less. So stop speaking poverty over your life. Stop saying I can't. Stop saying I'm not ready. Stop saying it's too late, because your words are creating your reality, and it's time you start speaking power instead of pain. You don't have to stay poor in direction, because confusion doesn't mean you're lost. It just means you're learning, and sometimes you won't know the full plan. You'll only know the next step, and that's okay. That's all you need to know, because clarity comes from doing, not thinking. You can't figure it all out in your head. You've got to move your feet. You've got to walk it out step by step. And the more steps you take, the more clear the road becomes. Waiting for the perfect plan is just another form of fear disguised as preparation. At some point, you've got to stop thinking about success and start walking toward it, because you can't steer a parked car. Movement brings vision. You don't have to stay poor in self-worth either, because you were not created to live in limitation. You were designed with purpose. You were made for more, but the world tries to make you forget that. It tries to convince you that you're not enough, not smart enough, not lucky enough, not educated enough, and you start believing those lies until you forget who you are. But the truth is, everything you need is already in you. The seed is there. The gift is there. The strength is there. It just needs to be activated by faith and action. Because when you start valuing yourself, the world starts valuing you. When you start demanding more from yourself, life starts giving you more, because the universe responds to your energy, not your excuses. You don't have to stay poor in focus, because distractions are the enemy of destiny. Every time you give your attention to something that doesn't grow you, you're feeding what's killing your potential. And that's why focus is wealth, because where your focus goes, your energy flows. And if your energy is scattered, your results will be too. So learn to protect your time, learn to say no, learn to eliminate what doesn't align with your goals. Because discipline isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. It's about locking in so deeply that nothing can pull you off track. Not noise, not negativity, not comparison. Because what you focus on multiplies. You don't have to stay poor in gratitude either, because gratitude is the seed for abundance. When you stop complaining and start appreciating, your energy shifts, your perspective expands, and you start to see blessings you've been overlooking. And when you start acknowledging what you have, life gives you more to be grateful for, because gratitude multiplies what's good and starves what's negative. And sometimes your breakthrough isn't waiting for a new blessing. It's waiting for you to recognize the ones you already have, because when you're thankful for the small, you become trustworthy with the big. And that's the key to unlocking more. You don't have to stay poor in relationships, because who you surround yourself with will shape your destiny. You can't build a rich life with poor-minded people. You can't grow with those who only want comfort, and you can't reach your next level while holding on to those who live in excuses. Because environment is everything. If you're around people who settle, you'll settle. If you're around people who stretch, you'll stretch. So choose wisely. Find people who challenge you, who inspire you, who hold you accountable, who don't let you stay the same, because comfort in company creates complacency in life, and growth happens where you're challenged to evolve. You don't have to stay poor in time either, because every minute is a seed, and most people waste their time like they'll live forever, scrolling through lives they'll never live, envying people who work for what they have, and wondering why nothing's changing. If you would take that same time and invest it in yourself, in your skills, your mindset, your purpose, you'd be shocked how fast your life changes, because what you do with your 24 hours determines what kind of future you'll live, and time is the one currency you can never get back, so use it wisely. Spend it building, spend it learning, spend it growing, because time wasted is opportunity lost forever. You don't have to stay poor in energy, because your energy introduces you before you even speak. And if your energy is always tired, negative, defeated, you'll attract more of the same. But if your energy is positive, determined, grateful, focused, you'll attract doors, people, and opportunities that match that frequency, because energy is contagious, it's magnetic. And when you vibrate higher, life matches that vibration. But when you complain, when you doubt, when you settle, your vibration drops, and so does your level of attraction. So protect your energy, recharge your spirit, stay around light, and be intentional about what you allow into your space. You don't have to stay poor in consistency, because consistency is the secret weapon of the successful. It's the quiet power that builds empires. It's the difference between those who talk about success and those who live it, because anyone can start, but only the consistent finish. Anyone can dream, but only the disciplined deliver. And if you can stay consistent through boredom, through doubt, through setbacks, through silence, then you're already unstoppable, because consistency builds credibility, and credibility builds confidence. And once you've proven to yourself that you can keep promises to you, there's nothing you can't accomplish. You don't have to stay poor in imagination, because your imagination is your preview of your future. It's your creative power. And too many people stop dreaming when life gets hard. They stop imagining better. They stop believing in miracles, but imagination is what creates innovation. And if you can't see it in your mind, you'll never hold it in your hand. So dream boldly again. Think big again. Believe that it's possible again, because every invention, every business, every success story started as a thought. And your thoughts are seeds. Plant them wisely, water them daily, and protect them from the weeds of negativity, because your dream deserves your defense. You don't have to stay poor in decisions either, because indecision keeps you stuck waiting for clarity that only comes after commitment, and you'll never know if it'll work until you start. So stop overthinking and start moving. Stop analyzing and start acting, because your first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be taken. And even if you fall, you'll fall forward. You'll learn, you'll adjust, you'll grow, because failure isn't final. It's feedback, it's information. It's a sign you're trying, and people who never fail are people who never try. So don't fear failure, fear regret, because regret lasts forever. And you don't want to reach the end of your life wondering what could have happened if you had just tried. You don't have to stay poor in purpose either, because purpose is wealth, it's fulfillment, it's peace. And when you live in purpose, you stop chasing approval, you stop chasing money, because purpose creates both meaning and momentum. And when you know why you're here, everything you do becomes clear. So spend time finding that purpose. It's hidden in your gifts, in your pain, in your story, in your experiences. It's already inside you, waiting to be unlocked. And once you find it, protect it, nurture it, and walk in it boldly, because living without purpose is the true definition of being poor. And above all, you don't have to stay poor in faith, because faith is the foundation of every comeback story. It's the belief that something greater is possible, even when everything looks impossible. It's the quiet strength that tells you to keep going when logic says quit. It's the courage to see beyond what you see, and to trust that if you keep showing up, if you keep working, if you keep believing, life will meet you halfway, because faith without action is empty, but action without faith is directionless. You need both, because faith gives meaning to movement, And movement gives proof to faith. And together they create miracles that logic can't explain. So no, you don't have to stay poor, not in money, not in mindset, not in spirit, not in effort, not in faith, because everything you need to change your life is already inside you, waiting for your decision to move, waiting for your belief to activate it, waiting for your courage to claim it. You just have to stop waiting for someone to save you and start saving yourself. You have to stop talking about potential and start living it. You have to stop doubting and start doing, because life doesn't reward intention, it rewards action. And every second you wait is a second you could have been building. So start now. Start small. Start scared. But just start, because your next level doesn't come from wishing. It comes from working. It comes from believing. It comes from moving. And when you do, when you finally decide that you're done staying stuck, done staying broke, done staying afraid, you'll realize something powerful, that you were never poor to begin with. You were just unaware of your wealth, the wealth of your ideas, the wealth of your strength, the wealth of your resilience, the wealth of your ability to rise again and again. And once you see that, once you taste that, there's no going back, because the moment you act on your potential, you become unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable, because the richest people aren't those with money. They're those with purpose, discipline, and drive. And those are things that can't be taken, only chosen. And today, right now, you get to choose. Choose to rise, choose to act, choose to believe, choose to become more, choose to never stay poor again, not in wealth, not in mindset, not in spirit, not in life, because you were born to live rich in faith, rich in growth, rich in gratitude, rich in freedom. And the moment you take action, that richness begins. Your circumstances don't define your future. Your decisions do, because where you are right now is just the result of the choices you've made up to this point, not the limit of who you can become. And the truth that too many people forget is that you can be born in struggle, surrounded by chaos, told you'll never make it, and still rise beyond everything that was designed to hold you back. Because the moment you decide differently, the moment you stop accepting your current situation as your identity, everything begins to shift. And that's the kind of power people underestimate, the power of one choice, one decision, one day where you finally say enough is enough. I'm done letting life happen to me. Now I'm going to make life happen for me. Every story of transformation starts with a decision, not with money, not with luck, not with help, with a decision made deep inside someone who refused to be defined by what they were born into. And that's what you have to realize, that no matter how hard it's been, no matter how unfair it's felt, you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a product of your decisions. And that's not to shame you. That's to free you, because the moment you realize you created it, you realize you can change it. The moment you realize you've been choosing fear, you understand you can choose courage. The moment you see you've been choosing comfort, you realize you can choose growth. And those choices build the bridge from who you are to who you're meant to become. So many people keep waiting for something to change before they change. They wait for more money, more time, more support, more clarity. And they don't realize that life doesn't give you those things first. It gives you a decision point. And when you act on that decision, everything else begins to align, because the universe doesn't move for the hesitant. It moves for the committed. And when you decide with all your heart, when you take one small step, even though you're scared, you set something powerful in motion, something spiritual, something that starts opening doors, connecting paths, creating opportunities that didn't exist before, because decisions create energy, and energy creates results. Your circumstances might be loud. They might be screaming that you'll never make it out, that this is just the way life is. But the truth is louder if you let it speak, because inside you there's a voice that knows you're meant for more. a voice that whispers that you can rise, that you can build, that you can change everything if you just stop believing your past is stronger than your potential. Because your potential is limitless, and the only reason people stay stuck is because they give their power to what they can't control instead of taking responsibility for what they can. They keep replaying their pain instead of rewriting their plan, and they let yesterday's disappointment steal today's determination. Every person who's ever made something of their life had circumstances that said no. Every success story has a background full of rejection, full of doubt, full of nights wondering if it's worth it. They kept making decisions to keep going, to learn, to grow, to stand up one more time. And those decisions stacked up until they became destiny, because destiny isn't magic, it's math. It's the sum of small, consistent, courageous decisions made every single day. And the best part is you don't have to have it all figured out to start. You just have to decide that where you are is not where you're staying. Sometimes the decision that changes your life doesn't feel big. It feels quiet. It feels like waking up one morning and saying, I'm done living like this. I'm done repeating the same patterns. I'm done blaming. I'm done waiting. And that quiet decision shifts the atmosphere of your whole life, because you start carrying yourself differently, thinking differently, speaking differently, and those small shifts compound until one day you wake up and realize you've built something new, something better, something that reflects your power instead of your pain, because that's what decisions do. They redefine identity. You've got to stop saying this is just who I am, because that's not true. That's who you've been choosing to be. But who you are is whoever you decide to become next. And that's the most freeing truth you'll ever understand, that your past is not your prison. It's your preparation. It taught you resilience. It gave you grit. It showed you what not to do. And now it's your responsibility to turn that lesson into fuel, because your circumstances may have been outside your control, but your response never is, and how you respond determines what happens next. When you wake up every morning, you're standing at a crossroad. One road is easy, comfortable, predictable, full of the same old habits, the same results, the same conversations, and the other road is hard, uncertain, uncomfortable, full of growth, discipline, and change. And the decision you make in those small moments defines your entire life, because your destiny is built in the daily, not the dramatic. And too many people wait for a miracle when what they need is a mindset shift. They keep praying for doors when they won't pick up the key that's already in their hand, and that key is decision. No one becomes great by accident. No one finds success by chance. Everything you admire in others was built by discipline, by 1,000 daily decisions no one saw, and that's what separates the dreamers from the doers, because dreamers wait to feel ready, while doers decide to start anyway. Dreamers say one day, while doers say today. Dreamers wait for motivation, while doers build habits. And every time you choose action over excuse, you rewrite your story. The truth is, you're never trapped by your situation. You're only trapped by your mindset, because two people can go through the same struggle and come out completely different. One bitter and broken, the other stronger and wiser. The difference is the decision to see purpose in pain, to see lessons in loss, to see possibility in the impossible. And that decision is what gives power to your next move, because once you shift your perspective, your path changes automatically. Stop saying if only things were different, because they won't be different until you are. And you can't change what's around you until you change what's within you. That's how life works. It reflects you back to you. So if you want better, be better. If you want more, decide to become more. If you want change, start choosing differently. Because waiting for life to improve before you do is like waiting for the mirror to smile before you do. It doesn't work that way. Your reflection changes when you change first. Every time you decide to push past an excuse, you're building a new version of you. Every time you decide to stay focused when it's easier to quit, you're rewriting your future, because the compound effect of discipline is transformation. And even though you might not see it today, your future self is already being shaped by the decisions you're making right now. And one day that version of you will thank you for not giving up, for choosing progress over comfort, for believing even when it didn't make sense, because your decisions are planting seeds that will one day become your harvest. You've got to understand that power doesn't come from privilege. It comes from persistence. It comes from the decision to show up anyway, to keep moving forward even when no one's watching, because that's what separates the average from the exceptional. The willingness to decide every day that quitting isn't an option, that failure is just feedback, that every challenge is a classroom. And the harder it gets, the more it's shaping you into someone unbreakable, because circumstances build pressure, but decisions build power. Sometimes life will knock you down to see what you're made of. And in that moment, you've got two choices: to stay down and surrender to your situation, or to stand up and redefine it, because your decision to rise carries more power than your fall ever will. And when you start making decisions from strength instead of weakness, from vision instead of fear, you'll notice your world start to rearrange itself. People will change, opportunities will appear, doors will open, because life always responds to clarity, and clarity comes from decision. When you decide who you are, you stop negotiating your worth, you stop explaining your dream, you stop asking for permission to grow, because you know that your decisions are yours to make. And when you stop living to please others, you start living with purpose, and purpose gives direction, and direction brings peace, and peace allows focus, and focus produces results. And it all begins with a single decision to no longer let your circumstances dictate your story. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to decide that you're not staying the same. You just have to decide that your past doesn't get the final say, because your future is too important to be left up to chance. It's meant to be built by choice, and the most powerful thing you can ever do is take responsibility for your life. Stop blaming, stop waiting, stop hoping someone else will fix it, because no one's coming, and that's not bad news, that's freedom, because that means it's in your hands, it's your choice, it's your move. When you finally accept that the pen has always been in your hand, something inside you changes. You start seeing challenges as choices and choices as chances. Every obstacle becomes an invitation to decide differently. Every delay becomes a reminder to stay determined, and every disappointment becomes a teacher showing you where you need to grow, because life doesn't punish. It prepares. It shapes you through resistance. And every time you make the decision to keep going when it hurts, you're proving that you're greater than the conditions trying to stop you, because power isn't found in comfort. It's found in conviction. The moment you decide to stop letting your past make your present decisions, you free your future, because your story doesn't have to stay the same. The only thing keeping it on repeat is the way you keep choosing from the same mindset, the same fears, the same habits. And once you break that pattern, once you interrupt that old programming, everything starts to change. The way you think changes, the way you walk changes, the people around you change, because your vibrations starts rising and life starts aligning with that new version of you. And that all starts from one decision. Every successful person had a turning point. That moment where they said, I'm done living small, I'm done settling for average, I'm done letting fear win. And it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud, it was a decision made in silence, in pain, in a moment of truth, where they realized that no one was going to rescue them. And they stopped waiting and started working. They started saying no to excuses and yes to effort. And that shift, that quiet, powerful shift changed everything, because destiny moves when you do. Don't underestimate how much one decision can change the direction of your life. One decision to wake up early, to start learning, to save your money, to stop complaining, to walk away from negativity, to speak differently, to think differently, to act differently, because every small decision creates momentum, and momentum is unstoppable once it starts rolling, and soon the same people who doubted you will wonder how you did it, but you'll know the truth that you didn't need luck, you needed discipline, you didn't need a miracle, you needed a mindset, and you didn't need approval, you needed commitment. Every day you get a chance to choose your direction. You can stay stuck in the story of what went wrong, or you can start writing the story of what's next. And most people don't fail because they can't succeed. They fail because they never decide to start. They keep saying someday, and someday turns into never, because someday doesn't exist. Only today does. And what you decide today decides what kind of tomorrow you'll have. So stop postponing your potential. Stop delaying your destiny. Stop waiting for the right time, because the right time is now. The right moment is this one. The right decision is the one that gets you moving. When you realize that every decision is a seed, you start choosing with intention. You stop making emotional choices that bring temporary comfort and start making purposeful choices that bring permanent growth. Because success isn't built in emotions, it's built in habits, and habits are nothing but repeated decisions. And the moment you start repeating powerful ones, your life begins to evolve, your confidence grows, your focus sharpens, and your results multiply, because decision is direction, and direction determines destination. Sometimes the most powerful decision is to let go of who hurt you, of what broke you, of who left you, of what didn't work, because holding on keeps you anchored to the past, and you can't move toward your future carrying yesterday's weight. It's heavy, it's exhausting, and it keeps you tied to pain that no longer deserves your attention. And the moment you decide to release it, you breathe again, you feel lighter, clearer, freer, and that's when you start to see how much your peace was costing you by staying stuck in what was. And when you decide to protect that peace, your power returns. You've got to decide who you're becoming before the world decides it for you. Because if you don't set your identity, the world will hand you one based on your mistakes, your environment, your failures. And you'll start living by default instead of design. But when you decide intentionally, when you say, this is who I'm going to be, this is the kind of energy I'll carry, this is the standard I'll live by, this is how I'll treat people, this is how I'll think, you start to lead your life instead of following it. And that's when alignment starts happening, because your decisions define your identity, and your identity defines your destiny. The difference between a wish and a decision is commitment, because when you decide, you don't look for the exit anymore. You stop entertaining backup plans. You burn the boats. You remove the option to quit. And that kind of commitment creates miracles, because it tells life you're serious. It tells life you're ready. And when you commit like that, the right people show up, the right doors open, and the right strength appears, because everything responds to the energy of decision. You can't keep blaming your environment for a life you refuse to change, because your environment might have shaped you, but it doesn't have to define you. You may not control the soil you were planted in, but you control how deep you grow your roots, how high you reach, how much light you seek, and your environment can limit you only if your mindset allows it, because there are people who came from nothing and built everything simply because they decided that their future was going to look nothing like their past, and that decision gave them fire. When you're tired of the same struggle, when you're exhausted by the same excuses, that's not frustration, that's your spirit calling you higher. That's your potential trying to wake you up, telling you it's time to decide, time to stop talking about change and start being change. Because your next level doesn't come from wishing. It comes from deciding that what's ahead of you matters more than what's behind you. And once you make that choice, nothing can stop you. Not fear, not failure, not doubt, because a made-up mind is unstoppable. Every time you make a decision that aligns with your future instead of your feelings, you grow. Because feelings are temporary, but destiny is forever. And if you keep choosing based on how you feel, you'll stay stuck in cycles of comfort and regret. But when you choose based on who you're becoming, you start building momentum that can't be broken, because purpose-driven decisions build powerful people, and powerful people build meaningful lives. And that's what it means to live intentionally, to choose your future over your feelings. People around you might not understand your decisions, and that's okay, because they're not supposed to. Your vision wasn't given to them. It was given to you, and sometimes the most important decisions you'll ever make will isolate you for a season, but that season will become the foundation for the rest of your life. Because isolation isn't punishment, it's preparation, and when you decide to focus, to work, to evolve, to grow in silence, the results will speak louder than words ever could, because growth is loud to those who stayed quiet when you were building. You have to understand that decision is discipline disguised as courage, because every decision requires sacrifice. Every decision requires letting go of something lesser to make space for something greater. And that's why most people avoid them. They want change without challenge. They want progress without pressure. But those two don't coexist. And if you can learn to decide even when it costs you comfort, you'll start unlocking levels of yourself you didn't know existed, because greatness isn't about ease, it's about endurance. You're not waiting on opportunity. Opportunity is waiting on your decision. It's sitting there ready, waiting for you to commit, because life doesn't open doors for indecision. It opens for movement. And the moment you decide fully, even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain, life starts cooperating with that energy, because clarity isn't given, it's created, and decision is what creates it. And once you step forward in faith, step forward in purpose, step forward in vision, you'll realize that everything you were afraid of starts shrinking behind you, because fear feeds on hesitation, but dies in motion. When you decide who you are, the world can't confuse you anymore. When you decide what you want, distractions lose their power. When you decide what you stand for, temptation stops working, because decision is power and indecision is weakness. And the stronger your decisions become, the simpler your life gets, because clarity eliminates confusion. And that's when peace enters. And peace is wealth. And that wealth begins the moment you stop letting your circumstances make choices for you. So decide today that you'll no longer let where you came from limit where you're going. Decide that you'll no longer let fear dictate your future. Decide that your past was the lesson, not the life sentence. Decide that you'll think higher, speak stronger, and move with purpose, because the power has been in your hands the whole time. And the moment you choose differently, you start living differently, because your circumstances might be temporary, but your decisions are permanent, and those decisions are the blueprint of your destiny.